Good afternoon, Jets Nation. Welcome to the Jude Show. It's week 15. This week we play the Detroit Lions, one of the hottest teams in the NFL right now. So can we cool them off? Let's go ahead and talk about it. So first off, let's go ahead and talk about the defense, because you've probably seen on social media that the Detroit Lions have won 5 out of their last 6 games. And a big reason to why they've done all this winning is because their offense has been playing lights out. Detroit currently has the 4th best offense in the NFL right now, and their offense has literally been carrying them to these wins. And everyone's out here talking about how good Detroit's offense is and how good Jared Goff's been doing. And I mean, look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Their offense has been playing really well this season. Jared Goff honestly has been a top 5 quarterback during this 6-game stretch. I mean, their offense has just been producing and winning them football games, which is something you don't really see in nowadays NFL. It's very defensive driven. Defenses are winning games. Defenses are winning championships, but the Detroit Lions are flipping that mindset. But look at the defenses they've gone up against in this 6-game stretch, and they're not exactly great. Last week, they beat up on the Minnesota Vikings, who had the worst defense in the NFL. They beat up on the Jacksonville Jaguars, who had the 26th best defense in the NFL. Beat up on the Giants, 25th best defense. Beat up on the Bears, 18th best defense. They did beat the Green Bay Packers, only scored 15 points in that game. No one played good in that one. They also had a solid performance against the Buffalo Bills, who have a top 10 defense in the NFL, but it was solid. Nothing crazy. And the Buffalo Bills don't have a defense like the New York Jets. And when the Detroit Lions have played a defense similar to the Jets and the Dallas Cowboys, they put up 6 points. And everyone's going to be like, well, it doesn't matter. Jared Goff's been super hot as of late. Well, Kirk Cousins, Josh Allen were held to under 200 yards these past 2 weeks. Oh, but Amon-Ra St. Brown and the rest of this Detroit Lions receiving corps been playing out of their minds recently. Justin Jefferson and Stephon Diggs, who have top 5 receiving yards in the NFL, held to under 50 yards against the Jets. This defense has kept teams in check all season long. But there's one thing that we're prone to. We have a weakness, and that is giving up big plays. And the Detroit Lions are a very good team when it comes to having these big plays. Last week against the Minnesota Vikings, they had not 1 but 2 40-plus yard touchdowns. And this defense is shut down. But we saw in the Minnesota Vikings game, we saw in the Bills game, one big play happened, and next thing you know, their offenses are rolling. So the New York Jets have to do a good job at stopping the Detroit Lions' big playability in this game. Because even if Jared Goff has the worst performance of his life, if he has 2 40-plus yard throws that gets that momentum moving for the Detroit Lions, then he puts the Detroit Lions back in the game no matter how bad he's playing. And then moving on to the Detroit Lions rushing attack, it could get to the New York Jets. Overall in the season, we've done a good job at stopping the run. I mean, we struggled a few weeks back in Minnesota. And yeah, Detroit, they have a solid rotation at running back. They use pretty much 3 guys every single week, rotate them in and out. Some weeks Jamal Williams balls out, some weeks DeAndre Swift balls out, some weeks Justin Jackson balls out. But most of the time, we only see one of those guys ball out. Jamal Williams does have the most rushing touchdowns in the NFL with 14 as well. But over the past 2 weeks, and while they've done all this winning, the rushing attack hasn't really been used as much, so I do think the New York Jets are going to be able to keep them in check. And one thing that might kill the New York Jets in this game defensively could be the absence of Quinnen Williams, because I mentioned last time Detroit played like a legit defense was the Dallas Cowboys, and the Cowboys had 5 sacks in that game. Quinnen Williams has 11 sacks on the season, most on the New York Jets, a big reason why we're top 5 in sacks, but he's currently 50-50. He didn't practice on Wednesday, so the chances of him playing in this game aren't exactly high. At least in my opinion, the Jets are hopeful that he plays, but to be honest, I don't think he plays, which could affect the New York Jets in the run game as well, because he's our best run stopper, but he definitely could get to us in the pass game, because having that wrecking force on Quinnen Williams really sets a tone for this defense, and without him, this defensive line could get lost. They weren't as dominant when Quinnen Williams wasn't on the field in last week's game against the Buffalo Bills. And you could even argue maybe the New York Jets win that game if Quinnen Williams plays the entire game. So the loss of Quinnen Williams could be huge, but I feel like the New York Jets secondary, Sauce Gardner, DJ Reed, will do a good job of locking up the Detroit Lions passing attack. And now that we talked about the Lions offense, we got to talk about the New York Jets offense, and they have a really good chance in this game to put up a bunch of points, to put up a bunch of yards, and make the stadium go absolutely nuts, because the Lions allowed the second most yards in the NFL per game with 403.2, just barely beating out the Minnesota Vikings, who allow the most yards per game with 403.7. The Lions also allow the second most points per game with 26. The Lions also allow 263 passing yards per game, so you know what that means. Mike White, who's thrown for over 260 yards in all three of his starts this season, will be cooking this game. Garrett Wilson, who's been having a blast these past few weeks, is going to continue to have a blast on the football field. Elijah Moore's going to continue to get involved. I see absolutely no reason to why the New York Jets passing attack could struggle this week, except for the fact that the offensive line really hindered us last week. Elijah Moore, Garrett Wilson were open a lot against the Buffalo Bills, but because the offensive line gave us absolutely no time, Mike White couldn't sit back in the pocket and throw to those wide open receivers, or he was on the complete opposite side of the field. The Detroit Lions pass rush isn't as menacing as the Buffalo Bills. They do have 26 sacks on the season, but with the way this offensive line has been playing, I mean, they could just completely give up a ton of pressures against the Detroit Lions, and we're not able to have success passing the football. So we're just going to have to make sure we protect Mike White, because he is hurt, and if he takes the wrong hit, we could see Zach Wilson come back in this game. So we're going to have to protect Mike White so he can just wheel and deal to our receivers. We could also see Bam Knight completely pop off for the Jets as well, because while the pass protection for the Jets has been spotty this season, one thing has remained constant. Our run blocking has pretty much always been good, and Bam Knight, who is been on a blast these past 3 weeks, is going to take advantage of that. I mean, the Detroit Lions allow 139 yards a game on the ground. I don't see any reason to why Bam Knight's gonna have another good performance. So I do think the New York Jets are able to do enough on offense and enough on defense to get us the win. I do think we cool down the Detroit Lions, and I think we beat them by 10. See the Jets getting the win in this game, 24-14. So what do you think the New York Jets do in this game? Do you think we get the W? Do you think we get the L? Comment it down below, and I'm your host, Jude, signing off for now. See you guys later.